Welcome once again to Feature Please. My name is Joseph.
I'm your co-host, Peter.
Peter, ever since we talked about Homefront and Paradise Lost, there's this voice I have not been able to get out of my head. It often looks into the middle distance of some grand vista in Colorado and kind of does this thing with his right hand where he's like a kind of Italian and he's really emphasizing what he's saying. He's got a lot of great coats. You know what I'm talking about?
Some good hats, too. Let's be honest.
Yeah, some good hats. Well, fortunately for us, he keeps answering my emails when I reach out to him. And so here he is once again, Feral Historian. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I really can't thank you enough. It is just like, hey, man, you want to talk about Star Trek for an hour with some randos from Ohio? And you just keep saying yes. So
I mean, that's one of the great joys in life. I mean, I'm going to do that anyway. So
yeah, we're not the Critical Drinker podcast, by the way. I saw you on that, and that was a lot of fun to see.
Yep. That one was full of technical difficulties, all kinds of.
And your cat showed up, too.
Yeah, cat showed up. Camera kept cutting out. And
Real quick, speaking of technical difficulties, I want to shout out your Cyberpunk 2077 episode. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh,
that's a game Joe and I played the hell out of. Like, before we start all this stuff with Star Trek, how much time do you think you have for video games right now? It's something that we keep struggling with in our lives. And
yeah, we talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say because I go through these periods where I'll do a lot of gaming for about 6 or 8 months, and then I'll go years.
Wow.
With nothing. And like I'm in one of those right now. I haven't played anything with the exception of I think I loaded up Mass Effect a couple months ago to get some B-roll for something that I still haven't done yet. But yeah, I'm in one of those
favorite here
dead zones right now where I'm not playing anything.
When you do play, are you playing on computer or are you on one of the game systems?
PC, yeah. Haven't been a console guy since Super Nintendo.
Well, I really like this the Cyberpunk video and the Cabin in the Woods one. Very excellent too. I thoroughly enjoyed both of those. And Cabin in the Woods is something that is near and dear to me. So I was delighted to find that one in the back catalog. As I danced around all the Star Trek stuff I actually wanted to really dig into, but has been embargoed.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods was one of those great times where I got to watch a movie without having any idea what it was about. So like every little twist hit because I like wasn't sitting there.
Did you catch that recently, or was that something like when you saw it?
Yeah, it was way back when it was new. That
same like when that came out, it was just very unexpected. Like I didn't quite know. I didn't know it was a Joss Whedon thing. Mm-hmm. It just makes a lot of sense in retrospect of everyone who's in it and how it was written and all that sort of thing. Like, how else does Bradley Whitford wind up in this movie? Like, someone had to have a creative mind to casting for that one.
Well, for anybody who's not familiar with our product and is coming in to check out some feral content here, the setup for our podcast is Star Trek primary focus. Joe's seen all of it. I have a very strong background in Next Generation, but I hadn't watched Voyager till we went through and reviewed it, Enterprise, and now Deep Space Nine. So there's some stuff I'm going to have to ask as we go into discussions on this. I think we're up to season 4, episode 16.
We're episode 20. We haven't gotten to For the Uniform yet. And that sort of thing. So that's kind of why you've been embargoed on some of Feral's latest excellent Star Trek material. Peter's like the last Japanese soldier on an isolated island somewhere that has somehow managed to not be spoiled on Deep Space Nine. I don't want to ruin that for him, right? Like this is just it's a special time for a young man. So that said, though, I think there's
if you can experience it fresh, then absolutely.
He hated rules of engagement. He hated rules of engagement. He found the plot too contrived. He thought that Worf and Sisko would be too smart to fall for it.
They should have been, and there was a way to nail Worf.
Actually fair, I think.
I don't think it's fair at all.
The guy didn't mention
that one again, but
how do you try to get Worf extradited out of Starfleet as a Klingon by advocating that he is a savage without mentioning the time he beamed over to Duras's ship and killed him while wearing a Starfleet uniform? Like, there's a right way to tell that story. There's a smart way to catch him, and it's not he plays violent video games with his girlfriend.
just call Picard over. It's like, and you reprimanded him for what again? Murder of a foreign dignitary. Got it. So we wanted to specifically talk about Homefront and Paradise Lost. These episodes, I could not get your voice out of my head for some reason after watching them, because it just felt like there was a lot of rich, this is a gateway drug into understanding the Federation utopia in a substantive way for the first and kind of only time, strange as it is.
Yeah.
Where you're really on Earth and you're like dealing with the Federation president, who's a character. And we see what Federation utopian society looks like in a substantive way that isn't like, oh, it's all a dream. Harry Kim's like here with his cave woman girlfriend in a parallel universe or whatever the fuck Voyager did. But, and I think it's really interesting to think about like the story in the context of the moment it was made, of like, here this threat is coming. Is this a society that has the ability to defend itself? Like, what's going on here? And then second, can it be ready? Right? Like, if the story is it's not, and that's why Leighton thinks a coup is necessary.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Like, what's step 2, Admiral Leighton? Like, how do you turn this ship of utopian people who exist in peace and plenty for 8 decades into folks who understand that a godless horde from the Gamma Quadrant is coming and they are going to kill us all?
Yeah, it's watching this episode again. I put it on last week, and it didn't really strike me this way the first time I saw it way back, but I couldn't get out of my head that, okay, they're meeting with the Federation president trying to work this out. And he has that line about when he was asked to stand for the presidency, which really kind of reinforces this idea to me that the Federation is more like the United Nations than like the United States, for example, where it's like each planet is pretty much governing itself, doing its own thing. It's just this very strong alliance, which begs the question, where's the president of Earth?
Like, yeah, isn't there like a local government? Yeah.
How is Earth actually run? And I just couldn't, I'm sitting there in the back of my head thinking about, is it kind of like just a planet-wide DC where they have some municipal functions set up, but the rest of it is just like our economy is based largely on being the seat of the Federation and everything's cool, so we don't worry about it too much. And if something gets crazy, we just look to Starfleet like, dude, save us.
It's interesting you should bring that up because there were 2 things apparently cut from the episode. One was due to budget, one was due to complexity. The thing cut due to budget was, where is the rest of Starfleet? Why is the Lakota, a random Excelsior class ship, the sole other starship that we see at the heart of the Federation? And the second is, Ron Moore evidently brought this up of like, Earth is actually governed separately from the rest of the Federation. There should be an Earth government that's interfacing with the Federation, and everyone else is like, that's too much, Ron. This is 45 minutes. We got 45 minutes.
From a television writing standpoint, you've only got that very tight little block of time. It's just one of those things that for those of us who overthink it.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to overthink it all.
And what a hard bull to get on for the writing staff. This is really the first time that we get a clear view of what Earth is in pretty much all of Berman era. And I can understand why this is a can that's been kicked down the road by writer staff after writer staff, because, you know, Star Trek at its core are people wearing space pajamas in a paramilitary organization on a spaceship, solving dilemmas through friendship and science. And, you know, it's feel good stuff. Like trying to shift the focus and the camera lens to Earth, and like everything that goes into basically making your channel great, like economics and the realpolitik and all that. Like, how do you make a post-scarcity utopia work? How do you present these enlightened people of tomorrow whose ideals and values are so advanced and selfless at times that they seem more alien to someone like you and me in 2026 than the Klingons do?
Yeah.
So to put the focus of the story on Earth, to give us that first real look at what life looks like, not only at the top seat of government, but also a guy on the street who's just trying to run his restaurant. I think they do a really great job presenting it while also telling a very compelling political thriller piece.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you feel that they present Earth as a functional society in the 2 episodes that were basically afforded? Because I love what you said before we started recording, that like Enterprise episodes play into your considerations here, because like as I was watching it, the episode Demons with Peter Weller, where he's like space lunar mining company, like frame everything that happens. I saw the Enterprise stuff before I saw the Deep Space Nine. I'm like, man, like this is great retroactive storytelling into like, how are things that are done light years away going to potentially impact people living on Earth, and what is their, how are they going to register it when trouble does finally show up on their door?
Yeah, it's I spend way too much time thinking about this to not have like a set list of answers like, well, it's this. No, I mean, Trek is such, I mean, part of why it works is because they shorthand everything so much. But one thing I always found kind of interesting about it is that, and, Enterprise did that with that episode you mentioned, and this episode does it, where it kind of, at least I get this impression that there's a lot of decentralization and compartmentalizing going on. Like what we talked about a minute ago with the Earth government kind of not existing practically, except for Starfleet, apparently. But like, okay, what is Layton's plan here? So if he takes over Starfleet, shifts the security posture to a much more hard target Earth, okay, great. What does the Federation do? I know Sisko has that line where he just flat out asks him. But I'm thinking in terms of, okay, what if, worst case scenario, either Earth just pisses everybody off and they're like, okay, no, we're not going to deal with this. We're moving the Federation headquarters to Vulcan. You guys have lost it.
Right.
Stay in your room. Or the Dominion comes in and they actually manage to topple Earth. Well, the Federation doesn't go away. Vulcans, Andorians, everybody's making the same stuff. It's like a NATO standardization kind of thing. You have this quadrant-wide military force that's just going to be there. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'd kind of like to see a story where the Dominion has to come to grips with that, because that is a very alien thing to them. They're used to going after these individual smaller power blocks that are much more centralized kind of things, like how they handled Cardassia. You just go in there, you take out the central military command, you install your puppet guy, and you won. Well, that's not going to work with the Federation.
It is and it isn't. I think that I see at your point of like, there's a multitude of races in the Federation. Taking out Earth shouldn't actually like defeat the Federation substantively, because there's not, Vulcans, Tellarites, Andorians, and then the Noblians, every other race that's involved, hundreds and hundreds of planets. But I think they make a real point of saying humans are the principal Starfleet officers and personnel, because they are the most adventurous out of everyone. They are the majority of the paramilitary that's defending this.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that actually want to explore space. Everyone else is kind of medium on that.
Yeah.
And Enterprise actually lays that out pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Like, the Vulcans have more advanced technology, but they're kind of dispassionate about the idea of exploration. The Andorians are extremely warlike, but aren't also very interested in understanding what's around them. The Tellarites are too busy being grubby, sort of mercantile engineers to really get their heads out of their ass sufficiently to be part of something larger. And it's humans that are the ones that are the glue that puts all this shit together, and are the ones who are actually interested in making contact with all these things and seeing what's out there. We have the adventurous spirit. We have the dynamic, personnel. We're the young empire that's come to assist all of these older powers to like realize a piece of themselves that they lost. And all the Vulcan episodes are really good at like laying that out very explicitly through the conversation that I forget Archer's boss's name. Von Armstrong's the actor who plays Admiral Forrest, and how like right before he fucking dies, like having that conversation with Saval. But So like I think taking out Earth it matters. I think like
definitely matters,
Earth going down probably does end the Federation as like an ongoing military threat. So Leighton's on to something that like defending this place is probably important.
Mm-hmm. I think Leighton successfully taking a coup and being ostracized from the Federation, where Earth becomes a standalone and the Federation still exists. Like, I think that hurts the Federation. I think the Jem'Hadar stomping Earth out turns Earth into a martyr, and it continues to rally all of the human Starfleet component under the Federation banner, regardless of where the new seat of power is. I think, and again, I mean, you guys know this stuff better than me, that in any straight fight, the Jem'Hadar are probably going to kick the are we swearing?
Yeah. I already dropped an F-bomb.
Okay. They're going to kick the shit out of Starfleet. And Federation's weapon and what the founders seem to be afraid of is hope and friendship and the inspiration to give to oppressed places that, hey, there's a better way. Fear doesn't have to be the ruling factor here. And being able to erode the glue that the Dominion's holding itself together through this fascist oppression. So if the Federation can keep itself intact, regardless of what member planets get conquered, that hope is still out there and that threat's still there. Leighton using fear to wrestle control of Earth away from the Federation and put it under his mutiny.
Management. Yeah.
That takes away a big part of that hope, and I think that makes the Federation much more easy to conquer at that point.
And I think that the episode does a good job of conveying that his actions were misguided, even if he's like the most realpolitik in understanding the problem.
I did want to jump back what Earth civilian looks like under Leighton, because going back to that Cyberpunk 2077 video that you did, examining what does a capitalism society look like, and how things need to decentralize, which, as you put it in that video, is like impossible to predict because who knows what resources are going to be needed in what areas and what's going to have to go into providing them. When you've got the magic food box on the wall, the replicator, which are the keys to the castle of the post-scarcity utopia, you can do whatever you want regionally. You can still make microchips. You can make milk. You can make all these things where there's large support structures behind it in modern day. But in the future where there's replicators, it's cottage industries all over the place, and it's all top shelf, and you can accomplish great things with it. So I think if Leighton were to take that coup, even if your government changes radically, I don't think it's really impacting people at the small level in what we see of the Earth population. And exactly what you just said there, like part of why Star Trek works is they use big brush strokes and they let the viewer fill in the gaps with their own thoughts and imagination. I think that's the best way to tell these stories, because you can't sit there and get hard in the paint with details. It's not going to work.
One little random thing that kind of popped into my head here about that I think kind of colors this in terms of how involved is Starfleet in just the governing of Earth. Like, how extensive would Leighton's coup actually be? And I'm thinking of that early scene in Star Trek VI when they're planning to go make that diplomatic outreach to the Klingons, and it's a room full of Starfleet officers. There's no Federation Council members. There's no representatives of the Earth government. It's just Starfleet deciding we're going to go and talk to the Chancellor and see if we can hammer out a deal.
I mean, there was the olive branch to the idea of civilian involvement was Spock did it because his dad basically fronted the move, right?
Yeah.
And so like that, but that you're right. It's the Federation top brass talking amongst themselves about how to make peace.
Well, even in Deep Space Nine, and this is something that we were very critical of in season 1, you have the wormhole open. You have this whole untapped quadrant that's now extremely accessible. You've got a stream of visitors that are starting to come out, and dilemmas and Rumpelstiltskin and all the other nonsense. You've got access to go in there and start forging new connections. The Federation doesn't even put a permanent diplomatic envoy on the station. They leave all of the first contact negotiations to a commander who, would rather be building starships. And there's the one episode where Loxana Troy comes in and there's like, a couple other ambassadors who are supposed to go through the wormhole. But like, really, the fact that they don't put a permanent diplomatic assignment on there just reinforces exactly what you're talking about. People are comfortable. The Federation is comfortable with letting Starfleet be that diplomatic olive branch to everybody. And, to that, like one of my favorite parts of Homefront is when they try to confront, what's the president's name?
Jarish
Inro with the idea that like, hey, Leighton is off reservation and he is plotting an insurrection. And like the absolute refusal he has to believe that a Starfleet admiral, a Starfleet officer could be capable of anything less than the best humanity has to offer, like with such a refreshing view. Because, we're sitting there through TNG and it's just crazy admiral after crazy admiral. But like to these guys, like this is the best of the best. These are our superheroes. These are our Planeteer Avengers. Like it's impossible that they would be planning a military coup. Like I need hard evidence. I refuse to believe this. And when you've kind of got a hero worship for people like that, like when it is the best of the best, yeah, like let them deal with the aliens.
Farrell, what is your take on the idea that the Federation has been 8 decades of peace, has had essentially unlimited technological innovations that make want a distant memory, and yet it somehow manages to produce the utopian man? Because I think we all know, like, if this existed in the real world, what's going to happen? Probably a deep degeneration of your population as they become extraordinarily self-indulgent, right? Like, that's what we all think. But I felt like that was like the most white-pilling part of seeing the Federation utopia, is that explicitly does not happen.
Yeah.
And like, is that a realistic hope? Is that like, is there a world where that's the result?
I could see that coming out of, a lot of steps between here and there. I don't know what that cat's carrying on about.
You said something in one of your videos about, Star Trek as a post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like that's the reason why we can accept this as possible, is that experience just changed humanity sufficiently that the survivors are like this rather than what we would expect them to be.
Let me jump in with my conspiracy theory real quick, that there was
no third World War III.
Well, that, but also that there was some real genocide going on behind closed doors by the Vulcans, eliminating the more undesirable human traits, and that what we have been left with post first contact is maybe not the full spread of the human gene pool. So,
I wouldn't put it past the space elves.
But like utopian, like analyzing utopia is like your thing. And just curious what you think of like that. This is what the show is presenting.
Yeah, the way I always interpreted it with Trek was that you had decades-long World War III just knocks everything down. People start rebuilding, and so like that generation that's rebuilding, they have the access to some technology and they have records. They can go a lot faster than doing it the first time. And then you have first contact. So you still have that rebuilding generation with that war firmly in memory, suddenly faced with, oh yeah, there's other people out there. And these ones seem to be good guys, but there's probably some bad guys too. And so the foundation of this rebuilt civilization has like the twin load-bearing columns of, we almost destroyed ourselves and we've got to be sure that nobody else destroys us. And I could see how that could encode a fair amount of self-discipline into a society that would last for at least a few generations. I'm not sure if it would be enough to carry it all the way through to, like, say, the Voyager period. I could definitely see some regressing and degeneration happening there when things get that easy. But
yeah, like even in the timeline we're presented with, like I said, 80 years of peace. That's what we're essentially being given. Is there's been no serious existential conflict aside from one flare up with the Borg that was like one bad day, and otherwise nothing has happened. And
which is very much like the situation that we're living in now.
Oh gosh, really?
I mean,
80 years of peace and being kings of the known universe, and then suddenly, like, maybe we need to start thinking about how all the existential threats to our supremacy might suddenly start to be much more difficult to deal with as a consequence. Yeah,
with a military that's way too used to getting its way.
Yeah, just being technologically superior to all its enemies and not really have to actually fight real wars.
Did you have a chance to play Detroit AI Become Human?
No. In fact, somebody was just asking me about that today. But
it is amazing, and it's on Steam sale right now for like $4, and it's absolutely worth it. And I think that ties in a little bit to the utopian, the ability for a population to take a step back and let technology take the helm. You played it, right, Joe?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I had Quantic Dream. You can't get me away from it.
Sure. So like the robots and androids become real, and humanity is able to kind of take a step back and just let the machines do things. And that's, what you're talking about. Like, what happens to an idle population at that point? Drug use goes through the roof in Detroit, and that's a big thing that they're pushing with. The utopia that the Federation, or what will become the Federation, has a chance to build itself out of, just like you said, you're confronted with, there's aliens out there. These ones are good. There might be bad ones. But it's not a world that can just sit back and rest. I think the need for Earth to continue to rebuild itself doesn't let everybody be comfortable. People can't get away with just saying, everything's already perfect around me. Now I guess I'm going to take up heroin, or I'm going to lose myself in VR porn or whatever. Like, there's still work to be done, and reinforce that work ethic and kind of keep things on the rails where I think it's feasible that people can hit a point where it's like, now here we are in, DS9 era, and people are opting to run restaurants, even though there's no money, just for something to do, to be productive in society, to keep things moving forward and not give into like, brain rot, Candy Crush, or whatever they're playing on their pads.
Yeah, that's the thing with like Sisko's restaurant that I thought, the shorthand of it, I think, works great. They make those assumptions. Like, it sort of comes across like it's open regular hours like we're used to. And I can't see that being the case. I would picture it more like it's something that he does as almost performance art, where it's 1600 Saturday night, doors open, first course 16:30, and that's what you do that night. You're having this huge meal while Joe Sisko does this whole Creole thing, and it's just this big entertainment. And since you have transporters, people can beam in from anywhere in the world. These places would have these immense waiting lists. Like, you'd have these like little restaurants all over the world with people waiting months to get in there just for that experience of it. And I could see something like that happening. But of course they
there isn't any. So. There's no spare tables at Sisko's.
Yep.
It is full. I completely agree with the performance art. Joseph Sisko as a character, you're the first substantive recurring Federation civilian character that lives on Earth, right? Yeah. Like, the only one that we ever get. And he is what an enlightened post-scarcity human is, as far as the audience is concerned. He runs a restaurant with no economic incentive. He has an obvious love of cooking.
Yep.
He specifically is a Creole culture supremacist, which I'm married to a Creole woman, so there's like the deepest my wife has ever identified with Star Trek. Is like, Joseph Sisko's right. Don't trust that doctor. If he doesn't know the difference between Creole and Cajun food, no taste. He's not self-indulgent. He's not entitled. He is not degenerate. He is wholly devoted to a craft that he has created, a performance of culture that isn't just for show. He's really into the food. He's even willing to adopt that culture to satisfy an alien's, tastes with Nog, right? Like, he's in it for the love of the game. And like, that's the utopian better man, right? Like, that's actually the most white pilling part of Star Trek's vision of utopia, is that Joseph Sisko is someone that isn't an anomaly. I don't think we're left to suggest that he is. Like,
yeah, it doesn't
he's
seem
kind of
like
just like what a normal human is like.
Like there's this whole artisanal economy that just exists below that surface of the, the practically free post scarcity, but practically free is also kind of boring. So,
and there's an undercurrent of that too, of like, he's literally killing himself doing it because he doesn't want to not do it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's a very interesting point that they make of that in both episodes, where a lot of his time on camera is like talking about that he knows he is endangering his life unnecessarily because the prospect of not doing the thing that he's dedicated his life to is worse. And that is also a utopian mindset, right? Like this man's going to die with his boots on rather than like take it easy and like actually live that utopian life and just exist. He doesn't want to do that.
As a contrasting character to everything else that we'd been presented with in Star Trek, which are Starfleet officers, I love the fact he has never had a desire to go on a starship and explore. He has been content, just like Picard's brother, to stay on Earth and do his little thing, be aware that there's a larger galactic community out there, be open to those other cultures, and embrace the friendship of the Federation, but never seek that stuff out himself. And when push starts coming to shove and these terrible things end up knocking on the door, his unwillingness to go along with the plan, at least at first, is so powerful. Like, you always see, okay, here's the dilemma, and we're going to have to do something crazy. Everybody's going to have to get the hypo spray to get the drug. Everybody's going to have to get hit with the blinky light to reprogram their brain, or whatever the science solve is going to be for that episode. And in this case, it's all right, we're going to start deploying these new detection procedures. Everybody's going to have to give a little bit of blood, things that you wouldn't have Starfleet blink its eye at. And now here's the civilian saying, absolutely not. This is against my liberty. I didn't sign up for your Starfleet nonsense. I'm sorry that there's what you think is a danger coming, but I haven't been confronted with that directly yet. And I'm going to have a fierce objection to this that's going to bring me to direct confrontation with my son, who's implementing this program. And then the powerful dichotomy there, that once they do get a taste of real fear, the lights get shut off. Now all of a sudden,
trauma.
It turns his dad on a dime, and the security procedures that he was violently rejecting at first, like just like that, he is into the security theater. It feels good that protection is necessary, and those ideals are left at the door as the DNA of the Federation citizen begins to change overnight once those comforts are stripped away, and that an honest fear is put in front of them for the first time, in a real way, even more so than the Borg threat did, because the Borg cube, they haven't done first contact at this point. So Wolf 359 happened. There was a terrible tragedy, but it was people who all signed up for Starfleet and knew what they were getting into. It wasn't the people on Earth. Maybe it was your neighbor's son, or someone you went to school with. But that power grid getting knocked out is the first time that Earth itself has really been disrupted at a global scale, hot on the heels of that embassy bombing, which already had people's jaws hitting the floor.
Doing the processing all the pieces of that thing. So
sorry,
I understand.
Throwing too much stuff out.
This is all we do.
Oh no, it's good stuff.
Star Trek all the time. We're very good at it. Hour a week, every week for 9 years.
But Ben Sisko having front row seats to his dad changing like that, and it's scaring Leighton's fear mongering right off, and being like, man, that my dad was my role model. My dad who talked me off the ledge of fascism, instantly turning yes, we're going to do blood checks.
My dad is so hardcore, he's willing to die to be a restaurateur. But he'll now all of a sudden he's like, yeah, you can have all my blood. Oh, my refrigerator went out. I lost all that gumbo.
It does make me wonder about the impact of that civilizational trauma again in the Federation, from the wars and the rebuilding and everything. Maybe it is just still buried there, and all it takes is to scrape that layer of bright, shiny comfort off of it, and there it is. So, which I don't know. That would be
that is
interesting to
Quark's.
explore.
That's Quark's take, is it not?
Yeah.
That's like Quark's famous.
No, that's right. Yeah.
This is what humans actually are. You take away all those comforts, and what you're going to be left with will scare you more than a Klingon.
Or
there's a little bit of that already coming out.
Maybe it's not, hey, the trauma is accessible generationally or whatever. These are people that have grown up so soft and so comfortable that the first real contact with fear just cuts through everything else in a very concerning way.
That could be too.
And that's actually like the great untold story of this era of Trek that I always wish existed, which is the story of the Starfleet officers who have to grapple with the fact that there is no peer, there's no superior that exists that has had to deal with what they're about to deal with. Right? There's no sage warrior who's seen the last conflict that's an admiral or one of the senior captains. No, you've got some guys who fought the Cardassians, and it was probably it was a bloody mess, and they're all fucked up from it. Like Captain Maxwell, like blowing shit up with this Nebula class ship and everything else. But for the most part, like no one's had fought a real
did nothing
war.
wrong.
Yeah, obviously he was completely correct. But you have a Starfleet that's just no one knows what to do. Like Admiral Ross doesn't know what to do any more than Ensign Jabroni, right? Like they're all in the same boat. None of us have done this before, and I feel like if there's a flaw in late DS9, it's that like everyone gets real comfortable with war fighting a little fast.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're a real military now. Okay, really? Okay, cool.
Although I kind of get the impression because I'm thinking back to like watching some of those later episodes when you'll have those shootouts with the Jem'Hadar, and it's like great war tactics where it's like, we're going to be behind this barricade and they come in from behind that barricade and they try to charge across no man's land and we just phaser at them. And it's like, I kind of wondered how much actual large scale war the Jem'Hadar were involved with, because they started to come across like, later on watching like SG-1, I started to think about equating the Jem'Hadar with like the Jaffa, the Goa'uld troops, where it's like, okay, you guys are scary for keeping the slaves in line, but when it comes up to actually fighting an organized military, you guys suck at this. So I kind of like wonder about the structure within the Dominion, because it seems like they've been ruling that quadrant for so long that there's just like the situation that the Federation is facing, but magnified by centuries, where like they just haven't fought anybody of consequence. And so then you bring those two things together, it gets kind of interesting.
So given the stakes of the plot of the two episodes, because that's a nice segue into talking about Leighton's coup a little bit more specifically. We talked about when we reviewed it, like classic 90s coup logic. It checks out. Cadre of important officers are able to put themselves in position to seize political power before the rest of the elements of state can really react. And then you're kind of like in this fait accompli state of, okay, like your Admiral Lachaevs and your other like brass who weren't in on it now have to make a decision to like, do I fight a civil war with Leighton, or do I just accept that Leighton has made this move and we can be part of the same team? That all checks out. And also, the fall of the coup, and that like Benteen's unwilling to commit murder, and therefore that's why the coup fails. Like, okay, like Leighton was misguided in how far he was willing to go, but the show does not discount that Leighton was probably right about his threat assessment.
Yeah.
Here's my question for you, Farrell. Had Leighton approached Sisko as a partner instead of using him as a patsy, do you think Leighton could have convinced Sisko to be in on it?
The impression I get from Sisko is not with what Leighton was presenting at the time. I'm thinking of some stuff from the Maquis storyline that I won't bring up just yet, where it was like, he's not quite there. But I could see a scenario where Leighton is like, hey, Ben, the president is a changeling. The Federation Council's spinning around. They got their heads up their asses. I can prove all of this. nobody's able to handle this. It's up to us to save the Federation. And if he can actually present the evidence that the Federation government is compromised to that extent, then I could maybe see Sisko being like, okay, we've got to do something about this. It wouldn't be the first time we kind of trashed the rules to do what was necessary.
I mean, that's his middle name.
Yeah. But
trash the rules to do whatever is necessary, Sisko. I thought it was Lafayette. So you think it would take like Leighton saying the government is compromised by changelings for Sisko to go for it?
Like, not necessarily that specifically, but something a little bit more than Leighton had. I don't see just, the president's just this soft, friendly guy that doesn't want to put troops in the street. I don't see that being quite enough. I mean, talking about the security situation, I mean, Sisko knows even better than Leighton does what they're dealing with.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's an interesting question, because Sisko is actually the only person with all of the firsthand experience of what they're facing. But I watched the Odyssey get blown up. You killed all those Bajoran colonists. Yeah, but I think killed everyone in the top 2 clandestine organizations in the entirety of the Alpha Quadrant. Also, tried to take my hot rod and murder me and all my friends to start a different war. Yep. Like, if anyone knows how bad it is, it's him, right? Like, Sisko's seen it all.
Yeah, and if you can convince him that the Federation government is somehow like structurally compromised, incapable of dealing with this situation, not just we have to show them that the threat is real, but like they're actively not going to do it, then I could see him getting on board with it.
I think his for the uniform, like he's too much of a party man, he's too much of a company man to probably.
He's got that line where it's like, I think he could be pushed over it, but it would take a pretty solid shove. And, the cards Leighton had weren't quite there.
I think Leighton's willingness to collapse the power grid and try to trick Earth into compliance with the fear play would have alienated Leighton. And I think even if Sisko had been approached and said, hey, I want to bring you in on this conspiracy, the second he starts talking about jerking the civilians around with, smoke and mirrors, that's going to cost him big. And what we discussed when we were covering the episode, Leighton's use of Red Squad, these Starfleet cadets who didn't know any better, like that was such a admission of guilt that Leighton knew that
just naming them Red Squad is kind of like, oh, really?
It's a bit of a red flag.
Why don't you just call them out for?
Yeah, so like the use of Red Squad and like the sort of moral element of it that disturbs Sisko, I thought was well handled.
Mm-hmm.
Like that he like accidentally he does the Lion in Winter thing with the head of Starfleet Academy and making him think that I know that you know that I know that you know, like that having that thing. I like that patter of how he kind of came to that conclusion.
And is that the only time we've ever seen a Bolian that isn't a barber or a bartender or something?
There's Chell in Voyager. Yeah. He's part of the two-box school terrorist. Of...
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. All right.
He was a barber on the Lafayette John. Oh, shit. And he actually volunteers to replace Neelix as the cook. He's not on screen, but in the series finale. So unfortunately, Chell is fulfilling all of the tropes.
Well, there we go.
Again, just like it fits with the coup logic of the 90s of young officers, impressionable. They don't know any better. They are filled with all of that guts and glory. And oh my God, Admiral Leighton is telling me I have to serve the Federation in doing this op. And they just go for it without even thinking.
Yeah.
And that clearly is like what pushes Sisko, radicalizes Sisko. Like, this is going to stop.
In a lot of ways, I think that was the big flaw in his coup plot, not only from that angle, but like, if you're going to stage some kind of a false flag, it's to create the immediate conditions to pivot into something else. Like, you want to have a war with somebody, you don't have a reason, so you do this, and now you jump on it. And by the time people find out, well, now there's a war on and we have these other problems. And he just kind of does this, power goes out, people start paying attention. And that kind of thing has a very short shelf life. You can't just sit on it. And it seemed like his whole point with that and the coup was to increase the security procedures around Earth to keep the changelings out. But it's not going to be enough to cover for when people inevitably start figuring this out, especially since you're staging this thing with cadets. And if they disappear, there's going to be a lot more questions than you might have with active duty officers. And if they don't, all it takes is, one too many beers and somebody's going to say something. And like,
wasn't his play to
hanging there?
Wasn't Leighton's play to take the president out before his speech?
Yeah, but he still got that. Like, okay, power's down. Everybody's expecting a Dominion invasion,
and then it doesn't happen. Yeah,
like, okay, what's the move? What's the thing that's going to like transfer the fear to something else so that you don't have people starting to look at Starfleet saying, well, why are you doing all this? What happened to the president? Why am I still getting blood tested and nothing is happening? It starts to wear thin very quickly.
Well, I think there's an element there where when Odo and Sisko start to figure out like, oh, he's used his position as the chief of Starfleet operations to put loyal officers to him into key facilities and positions so that when the time comes, like all of the nexuses of power have his people there. If that was done as a consequence of that crisis and he needed that step to put the pieces into place, but it kind of made it sound like he'd already done it.
Yeah, that's
and so it was, like you said, like it feels like it's all kind of not coming together correctly.
The cool Star Trek moment, again, I think happens where the fear play works. They put security officers with phaser rifles. And I want to touch on that real fast. Like the phaser itself, the prop is so anti-gun, at least until they got into like the revised Type 2 Viper that's like super angled. But like phasers don't look like guns. They are not offensive weapon. It's this defensive piece of technology as opposed to a phaser rifle, which is very clearly a gun that you point with the intention of attacking someone. Like, so when the rifles come out, it's always a big deal in Berman era. And the rifles come out with increasing frequency in Deep Space Nine as this Dominion thing escalates. So they put the security guys out on the streets with the phaser rifles, and the public responds well to it. Joseph Sisko is out there feeding the troops. And even the president's like, I can't get rid of these guys. Like, the public likes this. They're into it. That paired with the father Sisko turning on the dime about like security checks, fully exposing Ben Sisko to like, my God, what are we doing? Like this Leighton cannot be allowed to continue forward. I am watching the Federation be absolutely destroyed internally in real time. And it is happening at such a rate that like, it is alarming to me to see that we are capable of changing like this. Like, I think that Leighton could have been extremely successful. And I think even had he brought Sisko in, if the false flag of bringing the power grid down and tricking the Federation from the United Federation of Planets into like this Starship Troopers Federation, where it's like, yay, guns and troops, that was always going to turn Sisko off and shut this thing down and make him fundamentally incompatible with Leighton. And I'll be curious to see as the episodes get deeper and the Dominion gets worse, like if at any point Sisko's going to look back and be like, maybe that was not a good time to pump the brakes.
I feel like that happens. Like there's certainly some spicy shit he gets up to at a minimum.
Yeah.
He does things that would make Leighton proud. We'll put it that way. Here's my boy. Here's my realpolitik boy. So to close out, because we've gone on for almost 50 minutes already, the way that the episodes conclude is tied together by one thing I really didn't like about the episodes, and I'm curious as to your take, and that is Leprechaun Changeling O'Brien showing up to have a conversation with Sisko. You know, the trickster spirit showing up and be like, ha, Sisko, we're fucking with you today. I thought it was kind of contrived. I did not like it. I felt like it interrupted the flow of the episode. Peter pitched me on that this was perfect, that it actually like showed that first, the Dominion is personally interested in fucking with Benjamin Sisko, which is definitely something that speaks volumes of what they think of him. And second, it frames a lot of the story around what ultimately it ends on, which is that we will not permit if the Dominion's going to want to kill us, they're going to have to do it themselves. We won't destroy ourselves. And Peter made quite a passionate take about, the power of the Federation is in that it demonstrates there is a better way. It is the Dominion's worst enemy because it could show the people that the Dominion rule over that you don't need to be ruled over like that. You could, in fact, be part of a large multi-species organization that has your best interests in mind and isn't oppressing you. What do you think? Was the Leprechaun O'Brien trickster spirit scene, does that work for you? Or was it like, this is almost a little too much unreality into this?
Overall, it did work for me because it had that element of kind of classic disinformation and demoralization. Like you're demonstrating to them that, yep, we're here and we can just show up whenever we want to. And then he, like, when he says that there's only 4 of us on the planet. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe it's 40,000. We have no idea. Maybe he's the only one. But once that, like, the thing with the disinformation is even if you don't believe it, it's in your head. And so it kind of becomes your reference point. And so I always kind of had this thought that there's some reason why the changelings wanted Sisko to think that it was a very small number. Like there's single digits of it, like which implied to me that there were more, that they would kind of focus it down. Like he would kind of have in the back of his head that, well, there's not that many of them. If we grab, if we catch 5, we got to be close, right? Because the guy said there's only 4. If they start, I think he's kind of framing it in the sense that he wanted it to seem to Sisko like a manageable security problem. Because otherwise this whole getting the Federation to kind of destroy itself with, latent security theater and everything doesn't work. If you're already invaded, like, oh yeah, we've got like 50,000 changelings in the world. They could be anywhere. They could be anybody. What are you even going to do at that point? But if it's like, we've got a handful of them and we've got to find them, well, then it seems like a much, much more like a solvable problem that
solvable, but also devastating. Like there's only 4 of us and look at what you have done to yourself. We're barely even touching the steering wheel and you guys are headed right into the gutter right now.
Yep.
Your high morals and all this other stuff. And look at the mess. So just think what happens when more of us show up. Like what a threat and what a flex.
And the setup that it borrows from is, of course, when there was a changeling that might have been the same one that was impersonating Leighton that Odo figures out. And it's like, when we discussed it, it's like, oh no, that changeling meant to get caught in that moment by Odo in front of Bentine specifically to throw more fucking wrenches into the works,
which
to
would
make them
sense,
think more and more about destroying themselves through security theater. Not because they were actually attempting, they clearly weren't actually attempting to replace Leighton because Leighton was still there, right? Like they found the real one. Like he's not like in a closet somewhere shot through the head, right? Like, and if that was just a ploy to get them to keep fucking with themselves, then Leprechaun O'Brien showing up to taunt Sisko lends to the case that you're both making. So
I'm curious.
I'll buy it.
I'm curious with your critical eye, like what your criticisms of the episodes were, of any of the parts of the treason acts or any of the portrayals of civilian life as we saw it, or just anything that really jumped out to you as a real sticking point or thorn for the story arc.
Yeah, I think the main thing that stuck out for me from a story standpoint was that it's the false flag without the follow through. It's like, you set up the opportunity to launch something you wouldn't otherwise be able to do beyond security procedures, which are basically passive, but they don't. So there's like that hole in it. But otherwise, most of my gripes, I think those episodes were exceptionally well crafted. Obviously, there are some budgetary problems that they had to deal with, and they had to, time constraints. A lot of things get compressed down. Of course, being, big nerd that I am, I'd like to see them just go down all the little world building rabbit holes. It's like, is this restaurant really open all the time? That's weird. How do they manage that? Why does Jake have to chop vegetables all day? It's like, does he just do this out of being cowed into it? Is it some cultural thing? Do you have to like withhold something from him?
Sauce.
I don't know.
I saw hot sauce on all the tables. Like, is that replicated, or does he have a source on like real traditionally created Tabasco sauce still? And
yeah, that was the impression I got, that they're just making real stuff and putting it in there to have the full experience.
So somebody that we follow that does a Voyager themed podcast to imagine what season 8 would have looked like. And he does a really good job kind of writing out like what that story is as Voyager returns to Earth, posited in his like descriptions of how the Paris family lives, particularly Admiral Paris and Tom's parents, is that wealth in the Federation is actually reflected through how much real shit you own versus replicated or fake things that you own.
Yeah.
Like the more you have like antiques, the more like it looks like it's not the future where you live, the more well off and more of a rich kid you are. Which I felt was an interesting take. Like I really liked what you said in your the video that Peter can't watch on yesterday's socialism, that actually the Orville sort of finally nailed a way to describe how this sort of thing works. Is you are rich if you add to society. The more you add to society, the more wealth you provide or provided. So that's why you're motivated to do things, because your base needs are taken care of. But if you want anything more than that, you actually have to do something. It can be whatever you want, but it has to be something.
No. Which of course then would bring in all the status aspect of it, which is what the actual wealth would be. And so then you'd have this stratification. Like, I don't see anybody just deciding to be a waiter because they think it's fun. I mean, that's not going to happen, but I can definitely.
And yet Joseph Sisko has a staff. He's got cooks. He's got waiters.
Yeah. Which is a little,
this is the loosey goosey Gene Roddenberry future of swingers and sexual whatever. Like, maybe waiters just have really easy access to like great sex, and that's the social value. Yeah. There you go. Boring. So what does that leave? Drugs and sex, and you don't see a lot of drugs, so there's got to be a lot of sex. We've also talked. So people going into Starfleet, it's like the Skevians out of early Voyager Prime Factors. Like, Earth is boring. There is a commodity to stories and experiences. Maybe just all these people going to Starfleet. Like, Starfleet is the Twitch influencer economy of the future. And by going into Starfleet, you are accumulating really great stories you might be a part of, and then you can sell the rights of that back to people on Earth who are making holodeck recreations of your stories. And that's the real commodity, is people like playing through your adventures and be like, oh, great, there's another Reginald Barkley adventure. I can't wait to meet this guy in real life.
You got Crewman Williams and Petty Officer Daniels in the Turbo Left, like live streaming to the Federation equivalent of Twitch. We're cleaning out the Jeffries tubes today, boys. Hope we don't get sucked into some sort of mad secondary dimension where we're all have mustaches and are
Smash
evil.
That subscribe button, hit the like.
Hit the like button, subscribe.
There's no more Federation News Network. Like, all news comes from the frontier through influencer streams in the enlisted classes.
I think we're back to a dystopia. Feral Historian, I cannot thank you enough for continuing, for some reason, to answer my emails when I asked to talk to you about Star Trek, sir. Thanks for joining us. I hope this was as fun for you as it was for us.
Oh, definitely. I'm sitting here talking Trek and drinking scotch. It's hard to beat.
That's true. That is actually a really good combination. I can't believe I did this sober. But is there anything for our scant audience you would like to leave them, like, anything you're working on, like, or it's like, I don't know how anyone would find you through us, but just in case.
Yeah, well, I did just today finish editing a video on the Mirror Universe that is a remake of one of the very, very early ones from the first days of the channel that had really bad audio, and I left something kind of important out. So I just figured, all right, I'm going to redo it because I'm going to reference this. So that should probably be up in, I think, 2 weeks. I think this week is one of those potential channel killer bombs just getting dropped there. So we'll see how that goes.
Ooh.
All right. I look forward to it, man.
And you said you're planning on doing some stuff dealing with Earth and the way that Enterprise portrayed some stuff.
Yeah, I had, it's a pile of barely coherent notes right now, looking at these episodes and tying in some Enterprise stuff and tying in, I don't even remember what all, but I have no idea when that's going to be done because there ain't no plan here. Things just happen.
Best way to do it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, sir. And thank you to all of you for listening to V'ger Please. And hopefully, I have a strong suspicion that in the future, we're going to run into an episode or two of Deep Space Nine that might serve as a way for us to have another discussion.
Yeah,
so,
I can think of a couple that are...
I can think of a couple.
On the way, yeah.
The Pale
One
Moonlight.
in particular, yeah, that's the one that really comes to mind.
It's just going to happen. So when that happens, sir, hopefully you'll continue to answer my emails.
Oh, absolutely.
And everyone else, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.